You think you know the texture of your life. The weave of it. The familiar, worn-in feel of a shared couch, a shared joke, a shared future. My fabric was us, me and Lisa, 13 years in. It felt strong, if a little faded in places. We were the couple who finished each other's sentences, or so I told myself. Lately, the sentences had gotten shorter. Her answers clipped. A new, constant buzz of her phone, face down on the kitchen counter like a guilty secret before it even was won. The change was subtle, a shift in atmospheric pressure. She'd always been ambitious, a high-flying consultant, but the trips, they multiplied. Portland became Phoenix became, inexplicably, Bali. It's a huge client, babe, as she'd say, already half-packed, her focus on silk kimonos and resort wear instead of quarterly reports. Her scent changed from the familiar vanilla to something foreign, woody, and expensive. She called it a travel perfume. I called it the smell of somewhere else. But the body remembers what the mind tries to deny. I remembered the last time we were truly intimate, before the distance set in like a frost. It wasn't just sex, it was a conversation. My hands on her hips, mapping a territory I believed was mine to explore. The slow, unhurried unbuttoning of her shirt, the sound a series of tiny, yielding sighs. The kiss, deep, searching, tasted like coffee and home. I remember the feel of her breath hitching in her throat, a tiny, trapped bird of sound, as my fingers traced the dip of her spine. The warmth of her skin under my palm, a heat that seemed to bloom from within her, meeting mine. The way she'd arch into me, a silent language of yes and more an asterisk here star. It was a knowing. A communion. That memory became my baseline. And against it, her recent touches felt, or performative. Quick pecks that landed on the corner of my mouth. Hugs that were over before they began, her body already angled toward the door, toward an airport, toward a beach on the other side of the world. She was writing a story I wasn't reading, in a language I was starting to dread I'd understand. The fabric was fraying. I just didn't know how completely she'd already torn it in two. It was a Tuesday. A stupid, grey, drizzling Tuesday. She was gone again, this time to a wellness conference in Scottsdale. The house had that hollow sound, the kind where every floorboard creak is a question you can't answer. I was doing the laundry, the most mundane of chores, trying to fold myself back into the shape of a normal man. Her suitcase was still in the corner of the bedroom, unlocked. I wasn't snooping. Not really. I was just putting the pile of clothes she dumped beside it away. A pair of her expensive linen pants, the kind that wrinkle if you look at them too hard, were tangled. As I picked them up, something fluttered out, a small, stiff slip of paper. It was a receipt, from a hotel. But not in Scottsdale. The paper felt illicit in my fingers. Asterisk the Kion Jungle Resort, U-Bird, Barley. Asterisk dated for the week she was supposedly at a team-building retreat in Denver, 3 months ago. The charge was for a romantic pool villa suite. There was a minibar charge for 2 bottles of champagne. And a charge for a couple's massage. The room didn't spin. It just emptied. All the air, all the sound, all the future was sucked right out of it. I sat on the edge of the bed, the receipt trembling in my hand. My heart wasn't pounding, it was doing something worse, a slow, thick, sludgy beat that felt like it was pumping cement through my veins. I held my breath without meaning to, my lungs burning, as if by not breathing I could stop time, couldn't see the elegant font spelling out my betrayal. I could smell it then, not just the woody perfume on her discarded blouse, but the imagined scent of frangipani and tropical heat. I could see a villa I'd never seen, a private pool overlooking a jungle gorge. And I could feel, with a violence that stole my breath again, a hand that wasn't mine tracing the same dip in her spine. A mouth I didn't know tasting the hitch in her breath. The warmth of a different body meeting hers in that Balinese heat. The vision was so precise, so sensory, it wasn't imagination, it was an invasion. A memory of a moment that belonged to someone else, playing on a loop behind my eyes. The rain ticked against the window. The folded laundry sat in a neat, pathetic pile. And in my hand, I held a tiny, crisp rectangle of proof. My fabric wasn't just fraying. It had, for months, been woven with entirely different threads, in a pattern I was only just beginning to see. I didn't confront her. Not yet. The receipt was an atom bomb, but it had landed in silence. I needed to see the crater. I needed to know the shape of the lies before I gave her the chance to mold them into something new. For a week, I lived a double life. I was the dutiful, slightly distracted husband on phone calls with her, asking about Scottsdale's dry heat while staring at a photo on my laptop of the Kion Jungle Resort's infinity pool, wondering which one asterisk they asterisk had used. I was a ghost in my own home, a forensic archaeologist of my own marriage. I checked phone bills, a call to a 628 number, Indonesia, lasting 47 minutes the night she said her Denver hotel's Wi-Fi was down. I saw the credit card statements, charges from a boutique in Seminyak for a lace camisole I've never seen, and a dinner for two at a place called Mosaic, where the tasting menu cost more than our first couch. The worst part was the casual expertise. She'd mentioned offhand, weeks ago, that the sunsets in Arizona were so vivid, almost purple. Bali is famous for its purple sunsets. She brought me back a bottle of a local Arizona hot sauce, a spicy, sweet, complex chili paste called ABC sambal, unmistakably Indonesian. She'd woven her truth so brazenly into our daily tapestry, laughing at my ignorance from inside her secret. My emotional state was a sickening pendulum. 1 hour, a cold, clarity of fury that made my fingers numb as I typed search queries. The next, a wave of such profound sadness I'd have to sit on the bathroom floor, the tiles cool against my forehead, remembering the early days. I'd think of her breath on my neck, the soft, whispered promises that felt like truths pressed directly into my skin. The way she'd shiver when I'd kiss just below her ear, a shudder of pure, unguarded reaction. That was my territory. Had someone else learned that map? Did he know that if you brushed your thumb along the inside of her wrist, her pulse would flutter like a captive thing against your skin? The confrontation wasn't going to be a question. It was going to be a presentation. I gathered my evidence, not to win an argument, but to hold on to my own sanity. To prove to myself I wasn't crazy, that the fabric had, in fact, been ripped to shreds. I waited for her to come home. The wife I knew was already gone. The woman walking through the door was a stranger wearing her face, and I was about to introduce myself. She came home Sunday evening, glowing with a fabricated Arizona tan, dropping her designer suitcase with a sigh that was meant to sound weary but sounded victorious. God, it was so draining, she said, heading for the fridge. But we nailed the presentation. I was at the kitchen island, a stone statue. The printed evidence, the receipt, the phone bill, the credit card lines, lay between us like a declaration of war. How was Bali? I asked. My voice was flat, a dead thing. She froze, a water bottle halfway to her lips. For a fraction of a second, I saw it, sheer, animal panic. Then the shutter came down. Her face smoothed into a mask of beautiful, confused irritation. What? Babe, I was in Scottsdale. Are you okay? The Kion Jungle Resort, I said, tapping the receipt. The pool villa. The champagne. The couple's massage with. I glanced at a note I'd written. A Rio. Is that his name? Or is that just what he does? Samber through my marriage? Her eyes flickered to the papers. She didn't crumble. She *adjusted star. She let out a laugh, a sharp, brittle sound. Oh my God. That was a client event. The firm booked it. It was a hospitality client. We were scouting locations. The massage was a vendor meeting. You're being paranoid. A vendor meeting where they charged for 2 bottles of Dom Perignon? And the 47-minute call to Indonesia the night your Denver Wi-Fi was down? And the dinner at Mosaic? And the lace camisole from Seminyak that I've never seen you wear? I was listing them calmly, each item a nail. You brought me back Indonesian hot sauce and called it Arizoan. Her mask slipped into something harder, nastier. The victim act vanished. So you've been spying on me? Really? After everything I do for this family, this is the thanks I get? You're digging through my things like a pathetic detective. You left the receipt in your pocket, Lisa. You practically wanted me to find it. I've been under immense pressure, as she snapped, her voice rising. You have no idea what my world is like. The expectations. Maybe I needed a break. Maybe I needed to feel appreciated. So you appreciated yourself with someone else's hands on you, I said. The image was back, vivid and cruel. Did he kiss you like I do? Did he know that if you just trace the line from her hip to her rib, she shivers? Did you make that little sound for him? The one you pretend you can't help? That landed. A flash of something, shame, or maybe just anger at being so vividly seen, crossed her face. She crossed her arms, a defiant barrier. Nothing happened. You're constructing a fantasy because you're insecure about my success. You always have been. The lies were so vast, so audacious, they created their own gravity. I felt unmoored, watching the person I loved most morph into this cold, strategic entity. The woman who'd once cried happy tears when I made her pancakes was now looking at me with utter contempt for having the gall to notice she'd set our life on fire. The emotional impact wasn't a single wave, it was a riptide. Under the cold fury, a profound sadness was pulling me under. This was the death of my story, our story. And she was standing over its corpse, telling me it had never been alive. The confrontation didn't end with a slam of the door. It ended with a slow, cold seep. She didn't storm out. She just disengaged. After her last lie hung in the air, you're driving me to this, she looked at me with the flat, assessing eyes of a strategist who'd just found a weak point in a competitor's armor. Then she picked up her suitcase and walked upstairs to the guest bedroom. The click of the lock was the period at the end of our marriage. The emotional impact in the hours that followed was a physical sickness. The initial shock had worn off, leaving behind a raw, nervous system agony. It was in my stomach, a nauseous churn. It was in my chest, a hollow, aching vacuum where my heart used to sit. And it was in my head, a relentless, cruel cinema. My mind, the traitor, wouldn't stop scripting the scenes. It wasn't the act itself it focused on, it was the stolen intimacy, the moments that were supposed to be *hour's star. I lay on the living room floor in the dark, staring at a ceiling I couldn't see, and I felt it. I imagined her in that Balinese villa, the humid air thick with the scent of plumeria and betrayal. A stranger's hand, tanned and unfamiliar, pushing the strap of that Semeniac camisole off her shoulder. His lips, not mine, finding the sensitive curve where her neck meets a shoulder, the spot that always made her gasp. Would her breath have hitched the same way? A sharp, inward pull of air, holding it for a second as sensation took over. I thought of the way her eyelids would flutter shut, the long, dark lashes against her cheeks. Was she doing that for him? I could feel the ghost of a touch on my own skin, the memory of my palm sliding up her thigh, the internal jolt of heat and connection, but now the memory was poisoned. Was his touch rougher? More tentative? Did he discover that if you kissed the inside of her wrist, her pulse would race against your mouth? This was the true torture. Not the fact of another man, but the theft of a language I'd spent over a decade learning. The private vocabulary of sighs and touches and reactions. She had taken our dictionary and given it to someone else to read aloud in a tropical paradise. The sadness wasn't clean. It was mixed with a degrading, furious jealousy. I was jealous of the barley sun that had warmed her skin. Jealous of the champagne bubbles she'd tasted with him. Jealous of the silken hotel sheets. I was haunted by the phantom sensations of a foreplay I'd never witnessed, and it was eviscerating me from the inside out. Upstairs. Silence. In my mind, a riot. This was the emotional impact, the realization that I was now a stranger in my own life, grieving the death of a woman who was still breathing in the room above me, dreaming, probably, of a different ocean. The next week was a masterclass in cognitive dissonance. We moved through the house like ghosts on different frequencies, passing in the hallway without touching, the silence between us a solid, suffocating thing. She didn't apologize. She didn't elaborate. She simply began refining star. It was like watching a sculptor fix a floored statue. Her story evolved from outright denial to a slippery, gaslit masterpiece. The Kion? Okay, fine, I was in Bali. The client insisted. I didn't tell you because I knew you'd overreact exactly like this. The recouples massage became a misunderstood spa credit used for 2 separate treatments. Rio was now your colleague from the Rio de Janeiro office, and the dinner was your business dinner with multiple attendees. Each new version was delivered with such practiced, exasperated conviction that I'd sometimes doubt the evidence in my own hand. Had I misunderstood? Was my insecurity, as she claimed, painting over a mundane business trip? But then I'd remember the details my heart had recorded, not my brain. The way, 4 months, her kisses had become closed mouth and brief, like she was conserving something. The way she'd flinch slightly if my hand found the small of her back in bed, a place that used to make her arch toward me. That territory was now contested, its history rewritten. One night, she tried to perform normalcy. She made a salad, placed it wordlessly in front of me at the island. The casual domesticity of it was more violent than a scream. We need to talk about this like adults, as she said, slicing a tomato with sharp, precise strokes. You're holding onto a fantasy of betrayal instead of seeing the reality of my career pressure. I looked at her hands, remembering how they used to feel tracing my jaw. Now they just expertly wielded a knife. What was the reality of the purple sunset, Lisa? I asked, my voice quiet. The one you said was in Arizona. Was he standing next to you when you saw it in Bali? Did he put his arm around you? Did you feel that same drop in your stomach, that little catch of breath you get when something is too beautiful? The one you used to share with me. She slammed the knife down. There was no he. God, you're obsessed. You're fabricating entire romance novels because you can't handle that I have a life outside of this. She gestured around the kitchen, dismissing our home, our history, with a flick of her wrist. That's when the emotional impact shifted again. The dizzying sadness began to harden into something clearer. This wasn't just about infidelity. It was about the utter annihilation of respect. She wasn't just lying about an event, she was lying about the very nature of reality, and she expected me to live in her fabricated world. The phantom sensations of Bali, the imagined touch, the stolen kiss, faded slightly, replaced by the cold, concrete sensation of the kitchen counter under my palms. The present cruelty was starting to overshadow the past betrayal. I wasn't grieving the loss of a faithful wife anymore. I was beginning to understand I'd been married to a brilliant, bitchy stranger for a long, long time. And a stranger can't be faithful, because they never made you any promises to begin with. The clarity didn't come in a thunderclap. It came on a Thursday morning, in the silent, sunlit dust motes of our guest bedroom. She was on another trip, this one to Miami, a location I cynically believed for once. I stood in the room she'd claimed as her own, needing to find a charger. What I found was a book on the nightstand, Eat, Pray, Love Star. It was dog-eared, with a receipt from a U-boat bookstore as a bookmark. The irony was so profound it was almost funny. But next to it was a small, woven bracelet, the kind sold on beaches for a few dollars. Faded blues and greens. It wasn't her style at all. It was cheap, sentimental. A souvenir. My mind, now a cruel and efficient machine, connected it instantly. This wasn't a client gift. This was a trinket. A token from him. Probably bought after a day in the sun, after his hands had applied sunscreen to her shoulders, after they'd shared a bintang beer, their fingers sticky. I picked it up. It felt flimsy, insignificant. But holding it, I didn't feel the jealous rage anymore. I felt a deep, settling finality. This silly bracelet was the anchor that sank my last, desperate hope. She'd kept it. This meaningless piece of string mattered enough to bring back and leave in his secret space. The decision crystallized, not as a shout, but as a quiet exhale. I could not live in the museum of our former marriage, dusting the exhibits of lies while she curated new, secret galleries. I could not spend my life as a detective in my own home, deciphering perfume and receipts and fictional sunsets. The emotional impact had run its course: shock, sadness, fury, and now, this numb, clean resolve. The phantom sensations, the memory of our foreplay, our intimacy, suddenly shifted. They didn't hurt as much. They became mine again. Sacred, beautiful, an past star. They belonged to the man I was with the woman I thought she was. That woman was gone. The woman sleeping in this bed now was someone who cherished cheap bracelets from stolen moments. I placed the bracelet back exactly as I found it. I wasn't going to confront her with it. There was no point. The time for confrontation was over. I walked out of that room and closed the door. I was not closing it on her, not yet. I was closing it on the part of me that wanted to understand, to fix, to salvage. The resolution was not about her anymore. It was about me. The path forward was suddenly, terribly clear. It wasn't about working on a marriage that existed only in my memory. It was about the logistical, grim work of unweaving two lives. I would call a lawyer. I would start separating finances. I would find an apartment. I sat at the kitchen island, the same spot where I'd laid out the evidence of my downfall, and I opened my laptop. The first search I typed was not for signs of reconciliation or marriage counseling. It was for a divorce attorneys near me. The click of the mouse was the quietest, most definitive sound of my life. I was choosing myself. And in that choice, for the first time in months, I felt a sensation that wasn't pain, a faint, grim trickle of control. Telling her I'd filed was like reading a weather report to a stone. She was in the kitchen, scrolling through flights to Costa Rica on her phone. "I'll be out by the end of the month," I said, my voice steady in a way that surprised me. "My lawyer will be in touch." She looked up, not with grief, but with a sharp, calculating annoyance. "You're actually doing this? Over your own paranoid fantasies?" The lie was still her first instinct, a knee-jerk reflex. But I saw a flicker in her eyes, the realization that the strategy had finally failed. I wasn't playing the game anymore. "It's not a fantasy," I said, holding up my phone. A photo of the woven bracelet, taken that morning, glowed on the screen. "It's a $2 souvenir from a man you definitely didn't have a couple's massage with in a villa you definitely didn't stay in. Keep it. It's all yours." For the first time, she was speechless. The color drained from her Arizona barley tan. The bitchy facade cracked, revealing not remorse, but a cold fury at being caught so definitively. She didn't deny it. She just said, "Get out." Packing my things was an archaeology of a dead civilization. Every item was a relic. My old college sweatshirt she used to wear. The book of poetry I'd read to her on a camping trip. I felt a profound sadness, but it was clean now, the sadness you feel at a graveside, not in a burning house. The emotional impact during this unraveling was a strange dual sensation. There was the acute pain of loss, of touching the physical remnants of a life I loved. But underneath it, like a solid floor, was the resolve. I was no longer drowning in the images of them star. Instead, I'd remember the true star. I'd remember a night on this very living room floor, years ago, before the trips and the lies. The way her laughter felt against my chest. The way she'd guide my hand under her shirt, her own fingers laced with mine, her skin warm and eager. The way our kisses would slow, deepening into a silent, breathless conversation where every sigh was a sentence. The internal sensation had been one of terrifying, exhilarating homecoming star. That memory was mine. She couldn't adulterate it because she had left that version of herself behind long ago. Her reaction to the legal papers was her final, unexpected performance. She didn't cry. She hired the most aggressive lawyer in the city and tried to paint me as the emotionally neglectful partner who drove her to seek companionship. The audacity was breathtaking, a final, bitchy masterpiece. But my lawyer just nodded, used to such theatre. "We have the receipts," he said dryly. Literally. In the quiet of my temporary apartment, the silence was different. It wasn't the hollow silence of her absence upstairs. It was my silence. And in it, I began to feel the first, faint stirrings of something I thought she'd killed. My own breath, my own rhythm, returning. The fabric was torn beyond repair, but I was finally holding just my own thread. And it was strong enough to start weaving something new, something true, one painful, honest stitch at a time. My new apartment has white walls and the constant, low hum of the refrigerator. It's not home, it's a cocoon of quiet. The first night here, I sat on the floor, leaned against a bare wall, and just breathed. The silence was a physical presence, but it wasn't accusing. It was waiting. The emotional impact now is a quieter, deeper echo. The sharp stabs of jealousy have dulled into a chronic ache of loss, but I'm learning the geography of this new pain. It's no longer about them in Bali. It's about the death of a future I'd taken for granted, growing old on the porch, inside jokes at 80, the safety net of a shared history. That movie has been cancelled, and I'm the only one left in the theatre. I still get ambushed by memories, but they've changed. They're not just sensations of touch anymore, they're full scenes, and I watch them now with a bittersweet clarity, like watching a film of two other people. I can remember the weight of her head on my chest on a lazy Sunday, the way her hair smelled of sunshine and shampoo. I can remember the specific sound of her key in the door, a sound that once made my heart lift. These ghosts aren't malicious, they're just sad, lingering spirits of a love that was real for me, even if it was a performance for her. I found one of her hairs, long and dark, coiled in the cuff of an old jacket I unpacked. I didn't rage. I just held it for a moment, this fragile, abandoned filament of her past life, then dropped it into the trash. It felt like a small, significant exorcism. The lawyer calls with updates. Her side is fighting over the china set, the loyalty dog we got together. It's all so petty, so insultingly small compared to the vastness of what was shattered. Her bitchiness has been bureaucratized into legal motions. It's almost easier to deal with. The lies are now bullet points in a mediation brief, and their power over me is fading. In this empty space, I'm starting to feel the outlines of myself again, the man I was before I became her husband. I'd forgotten him. He likes silence in the morning. He doesn't mind cooking for one. He can sleep sprawled in the center of the bed, and the only breath he hears is his own. I'm not healed. Not even close. But the acceptance I'm stumbling toward isn't about accepting her actions. It's about accepting my new reality. The story I told myself about my life was wrong. The protagonist was betrayed. Now, he has to pick up the narrative and find a way to keep going, without the co-author he trusted with the whole tale. The phantom sensations are finally losing their vivid, painful heat. When I think of a touch now, it feels more like a memory from a book I once loved, rather than a fresh wound. The internal shiver, the held breath, the kiss that felt like a promise, they're being archived. They belong to a closed volume titled A Before. And I am, slowly, writing the first, tentative sentence of the after. It's a simple sentence. It starts with, I am here. It's been a year. The divorce is final. The last piece of paper, signed and stamped, felt not like a defeat, but like a discharge paper from a war I never enlisted in. I'm in my own place now, with plants I keep alive and a coffee table that has a faint ring from a glass I didn't panic clean. It's a good life. It's mine. I heard through the grapevine she's in Bali again. Permanently, this time. Something about her wellness startup with a partner named Rio. The news didn't twist in my gut. It just felt inevitable, like reading the last page of a poorly written novel you'd already put down. The bitchy lies, the constant performance, the unexpected trips, they weren't flaws in our marriage. They were the marriage. She was a tourist in her own life, and I was just a convenient landmark. So, what did I learn? If you're reading this, raw and wrecked in the middle of your own nightmare, here's what this hollowed-out heart figured out. First, the body knows the truth before the mind accepts it. That coldness in her kiss, the flinch at your touch, the new perfume, they are all syllables in a confession she's too cowardly to speak. Trust the fabric of your daily life. If it starts to feel foreign, it's because it is. Second, the images will torture you. The phantom hands, the stolen sighs in a jungle villa, the intimate geography of her body being explored by a stranger. Let them come. Feel them. But then, reclaim your own memories. The way she looked at you once, truly. The sound of her honest laughter. Don't let her betrayal poison your past. That love you felt was real for you star. That matters. Archive it. It's proof you can feel that deeply. Third, her lies are not a commentary on your worth. They are the frantic, ugly scaffolding holding up her fragile, false self. When you stop believing them, the whole structure collapses. You don't have to dismantle it. Just walk out of the shadow it casts. Finally, there is a strange, fierce freedom on the other side of acceptance. Acceptance isn't saying what she did was okay. It's saying, this happened. My story now continues without her. The first time you take a full, deep breath and realize you're not waiting for the other shoe to drop, you'll feel a strength you forgot you had. My fabric is my own now. I'm weaving it slowly, deliberately. The threads are simpler, quiet mornings, genuine friendships, the peace of my own unmonitored thoughts. It's not as brightly colored as the old one promised to be, but it's strong. It's honest. And every single thread is mine. If you're where I was, holding that receipt in the rain, I'm sorry. The road out is hell. But walk it. With every step, you leave the land of her lies and move toward the territory of your own truth. And the air there, while sometimes lonely, is clean. You can breathe there. And eventually, you will learn to breathe for yourself, and find it is more than enough.